Why are African Americans still dying at the hands of law enforcement in this country?
And so are white people. So are white people. What a terrible question to ask. So are white people. More white people, by the way. More white people.
Washington AP. Donald Trump warned during his debate with Joe Biden and again at a Friday rally that migrants were taking black jobs and Hispanic jobs from Americans, angering critics who called it a racist and insulting attempt to expand his appeal beyond his white conservative base.
After that terrible attack in Central Park, you spent a lot of money taking ads that seemed, Donald, to the casual reader insightful, like vigilante, wow.
Of course I hate these people. And let's all hate these people, because maybe hate is what we need if we're going to get something done. I mean, it's incredible when a reporter asks me whether or not I have compassion for the people that did this crime. I have absolutely no compassion.
In an attempt to appeal to black voters, former President Donald Trump says he has something in common with them. He's being treated unfairly by the criminal justice system. I got indicted for nothing, for something that is nothing, Trump said, speaking over the weekend to the Black Conservative Federation's annual gala. They were doing it because it's election interference. And then I got indicted for a second time, a third time and a fourth time, and a lot of people said that that's why the black people like me, because they've been hurt so badly and discriminated against. I'm being indicted for you, the black population. Trump, in the spring of 2011 before he decided to run for president, pushing rumors that former President Barack Obama was not born in the U.S. and not qualified to be president. You know what's hurting the game? When people like yourselves turn on television, and you see those people taking the knee when they are playing our great national anthem. Trump, in 2017 to a largely white crowd after former NFL quarterback Colin Kaepernick chose not to stand during the playing of the national anthem as a form of protest against racism and police brutality. Why don't they go back and help fix the totally broken and crime-infested places from which they came? Trump, in a series of tweets in 2019 that targeted a group of House Democrats, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez of New York, Ayanna Pressley of Massachusetts, Ilhan Omar of Minnesota and Rashida Tlaib of Michigan. I just heard it today that she doesn't meet the requirements. Trump ahead of the 2020 presidential election, pushing another birtherism conspiracy theory that suggested Vice President Kamala Harris was not qualified to hold her office.
A well-educated black has a tremendous advantage over a well-educated white in terms of the job market. And I think sometimes a black may think that they don't really have the advantage or this or that, but in actuality, today, currently, it's a great, I've said on occasion, even about myself, if I was starting off today, I would love to be a well-educated black because I really believe they do have an actual advantage today.
If he spent more time in Baltimore, maybe he could help clean up this very dangerous and filthy place. Trump on Twitter in 2019, criticizing former Democratic Rep. Elijah Cummings that his district, where more than half of residents are black, was a disgusting, rat and rodent-infested mess.
I said, I believe I have more Indian blood in my veins than you have, and I have none. They don't look like Indians to me, and they don't look like Indians to Indians.
Donald Trump warned during his debate with Joe Biden and again at a Friday rally that migrants were taking black jobs and Hispanic jobs from Americans, angering critics who called it a racist and insulting attempt to expand his appeal beyond his white conservative base. 1973 discrimination charge. Donald and Fred Trump are accused of violating the Fair Housing Act by discriminating against potential minority renters. 1975 DOJ settlement. The Trumps settle with the Department of Justice over housing discrimination charges, agreeing to meet certain standards while not admitting any wrongdoing. 1978 renewed discrimination charge. The Department of Justice accuses the Trumps of continuing to discriminate in spite of their settlement. 1983 report. Disproportionately white tenants. The New York Times reports that 2 Trump properties have populations that are 95% white.
I'd like to have him show his birth certificate. And can I be honest with you? I hope he can. Because if he can't, and if he wasn't born in this country, which is a real possibility, I'm not saying it happened, I'm saying it's a real possibility, much greater than I thought 2 or 3 weeks ago, then he has pulled one of the great cons in the history of politics. Was it a birth certificate? You tell me. You know, some people say that was not his birth certificate. So maybe it was, maybe it wasn't.
You don't believe it was his birth certificate?
No, I don't know. I'm saying I don't know.
When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best.
They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people. Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States until our country's representatives can figure out what the hell is going on. Look at my African American over here. Look at him. Are you the greatest?
He's a Mexican. We're building a wall between here and Mexico. The answer is he is giving us very unfair rulings. Rulings that people can't even believe. This case should have ended years ago in summary judgment. Our inner cities, African Americans, Hispanics, are living in hell because it's so dangerous. You walk down the street, you get shot.
Are you going to include the CBC, Mr. President, in your conversations with your urban agenda, your inner city agenda, as well as...
Am I going to include...
Are you going to include the Congressional Black Caucus and the Congressional
Well,
Hispanic
I would.
Caucus?
I tell you what, do you want to set up the meeting? Do you want to set up the meeting?
No.
Are they friends of yours?
I'm just a reporter.
I think there's blame on both sides. You look at both sides. I think there's blame on both sides, and I have no doubt about it, and you don't have any doubt about it either. You were here long before any of us were here. Although we have a representative in Congress who they say was here a long time ago. They call her Pocahontas. But you know what? I like you because you are special.
According to the New York Times, he complained that the 15,000 Haitian immigrants who received visas in 2017 all have AIDS. In that very same meeting, the Times reports, he said that once the 40,000 Nigerian immigrants given visas arrived in the U.S., they would never go back to their huts. The White House denies this report.
The Post reports that according to two people briefed in the meeting, the president asked, quote, "Why are we having all these people from shithole countries come here?" referring to African countries. And Haiti, the president then went on to talk about how they needed to bring in more people from places like Norway.
In a new and truly stunning attack on his former White House aide and former primetime co-star Omarosa Manigat-Newman, this is what the president just wrote, quote, "When you give a crazed, crying lowlife a break and give her a job at the White House, I guess it just didn't work out. Good work by General Kelly for quickly firing that dog."
1989 Central Park 5 ads. After 5 young men of color, known as the Central Park 5, are arrested for a brutal attack on a jogger, Donald Trump buys full-page newspaper ads stressing law and order and urging return of the death penalty. He writes that white, black, Hispanic and Asian families have lost a sense of security in their neighborhoods. The 5 men, who Trump called crazed misfits, were exonerated 13 years later. Trump Hotel penalized for discrimination. A judge rules against the Trump Plaza Hotel in New Jersey, concluding the hotel discriminated in removing a black dealer from a table at the request of a wealthy player. 1993, "They don't look like Indians to me." Trump says during a congressional hearing when talking about Native American casino officials, accusing them of working with organized crime. He adds that political correctness has given Native American status to some people who don't look like Indians. Sued by 20 black Americans. 20 people from Indiana sue Trump, alleging he did not make good on promises to hire a large number of local minorities for his new casino.
December
23, 1998 doesn't hire minority contractors. The chairwoman of the Palm Beach County Commission chastises Trump for apparently failing to meet his pledge to make reasonable efforts to give 30% of contracts for building a Trump golf course to minorities. October 6, 2000 secretly funds anti-Native American ads. Trump agrees to apologize and pay a fine for secretly financing sharp ads opposing a Native American gambling proposal. The ads included pictures of syringes and cocaine and asked, "Are these the new neighbors we want?" April 2005 suggests pitting white people against black people for ratings. On the Howard Stern radio show, Trump raises an idea for his reality show, The Apprentice, an all-white team vying against an all-black team. After show co-host Robin Quivers jokes that will cause a riot, Trump responds, "It would be the highest-rated show on television."
February
10, 2011 first publicly doubts Obama. Trump tells conservative CPAC that President Barack Obama's classmates never saw him at school. PolitiFact rated this statement, "Pants on fire." March 23, 2011 birtherism begins. Trump goes on. The View says that President Obama must show his birth certificate. April 21, 2011 questions Obama's place at Harvard. In an interview with the Associated Press, Trump questions how President Obama got into Columbia and Harvard. Later he tells reporters Obama should get off the basketball court. May 9, 2011. I am the least racist person there is, Trump says to Fox News, pointing to the fact that an African American won The Apprentice. April 14, 2011. I have a great relationship with the blacks, Trump tells an Albany, New York, radio show. November 1, 2011 claims there are double standards when it comes to racism. In a YouTube video now marked private, Trump accuses Jon Stewart of racism and says there is a double standard. Stewart seemed to use a voice imitating Herman Cain. April 24, 2013 disputes innocence of the Central Park Five. Trump tweets that a documentary about the full exoneration of the 5 men of color in the Central Park jogger cases, one-sided, and didn't explain their horrific crimes. April 24, 2013 calls Jon Stewart by his Jewish birth name. Trump tweets that he's smarter than Jonathan Leibowitz, I mean Jon Stewart. June 5, 2013 repeats falsehoods on minorities and crime. During the ramp-up to the George Zimmerman Trayvon Martin trial, Trump tweets that the overwhelming amount of violent crime in our cities is committed by blacks and Hispanics. This seems to come from a New York City report showing black and Hispanic people were also the majority of crime victims. An FBI report disputes Trump's claim nationally. August 5, 2013 claims double standard on N. On Fox News, Trump responds to Democratic Rep. Charlie Rangel's use of the word cracker for white people by saying there is unfair and greater backlash against Republicans who use N to describe black people. June 21, 2014 the Central Park Five settlement is a disgrace. Trump writes an op-ed for the New York Daily News. He says that the 5 men falsely jailed were no angels, and the city's $40 million settlement with them is a heist.
February
25, 2015 Mexico, sending criminals. Trump tweets that Mexico is corrupt and sends criminals over the U.S. border. April 28, 2015, thugs. In midst of violent reaction to the death of Freddie Gray in Baltimore, Trump tweets that thugs are happily and openly destroying the city. June 16, 2015 Mexico sending rapists. In the speech announcing his candidacy for president, Trump charges that Mexico is sending rapists and criminals to the U.S. June 23, 2015 African American youth have no spirit, Trump told a Republican luncheon in Baltimore, adding, they've just about never done more poorly. June 30, 2015, I love the Mexican people, Trump tweets, but adds, Mexico is not our friend. July 1, 2015 stands by Mexican rapists, remark. In an interview with CNN, Trump insists Mexico is sending rapists to America. He does not seem to accept research showing that rapes of women crossing the border are largely done by traffickers. July 5, 2015 swipe at Jeb Bush's Mexican-American wife. In a tweet he later deleted, Trump writes that Bush has to like the Mexican illegals because of his wife. Columba Bush was born in Mexico and legally immigrated to the United States. August 19, 2015, passionate, Trump supporters beat Hispanic man. After 2 white men indicated Donald Trump inspired them to beat and urinate on a homeless Hispanic man, Trump initially calls it a shame, but says his supporters are passionate. He later tweets that the incident was terrible and he does not condone violence. August 25, 2015 mimicking Asians. Talking about Japanese and Chinese negotiators, Trump, seeming to use an accent, says their approach is, we want deal. August 26, 2015 would not want David Duke's support. Trump tells Bloomberg he doesn't want David Duke's endorsement and doesn't need any endorsement. Asked if he would repudiate Duke, Trump said, sure, if it made you feel better. November 2015 false statistics about African Americans. After a black protester chanting, Black Lives Matter, at his Alabama rally was pushed and punched, Trump tweets and later deletes false statistics about the percentage of white people killed by black people. PolitiFact rated one claim as, pants on fire.
December
3, 2015 Jews as negotiators. Speaking to the Republican Jewish Coalition, Trump discussed Israeli-Palestinian talks and then said, I'm a negotiator, like you folks, and this room negotiates perhaps more than any room I've spoken to, maybe more. In February, Trump would tell CNN the Persians are great negotiators. December 8, 2015 compares his Muslim ban to Japanese internment, World War II. Policies. In an interview with ABC, Trump says his Muslim ban proposal is no different than President Franklin Roosevelt's orders regarding Japanese, German and Italian Americans during World War II. February 28 to 29, 2016 Trump non-answer on David Duke. On CNN, Trump is asked in multiple ways if he condemns David Duke and does not directly answer. June 2 to 3, 2016 more on Judge's Mexican heritage. Speaking with the WSJ and CNN, Trump says Judge Curiel's Mexican heritage is an absolute conflict in his oversight of the Trump University case and he cannot be fair. On CBS, Trump calls his inference that Curiel is biased because of his race, common sense. June 3, 2016, my African American, Chinese American support. In Redding, California, Trump stresses support from African Americans and points to a black man in the crowd, saying, "Oh, look at my African American over here." June 11, 2016 misleading claim on black unemployment. In Richmond, Virginia, Trump says he will expand his campaign theme to include everyone. Then, around the 25-minute mark, he argues America is in decline, saying, African American youth is an example, 59% unemployment rate, 59%. PolitiFact rated the claim, mostly false. June 25, 2016 Muslim ban, but not for certain Muslims. Trump tells reporters with him in Scotland that it wouldn't bother him for a Scottish Muslim to enter the United States. This, after he had pledged in December to ban all Muslims from arriving in the U.S. Advisors try to walk back the comments and say the ban would focus on countries associated with terrorist groups. July 15, 2016. The South overplayed its hand, Trump says of the Civil War in an interview with Time. Trump indicates he thinks the South could have settled without war. July 30, 2016 Ghazala Khan. Trump questions why Gold Star mother and Pakistani-American Ghazala Khan was silent when her husband spoke at the Democratic convention. Maybe she wasn't allowed to have anything to say, Trump suggested. Mrs. Khan later said she did not speak because she was overcome by emotion. August 16, 2016 direct appeal to African Americans. Trump directly asks for African American votes in a speech about law and order. He vows to protect minorities from immigrants who could take their jobs and accuses Hillary Clinton of bigotry. August 18, 2016 appeal to African Americans, Hispanic Americans. In Charlotte, North Carolina, Trump promises jobs, safety, and fair, equal representation to African Americans, Hispanic Americans, and all Americans. Note, he also expresses regret for some of his recent words, though does not specify which words. August 19, 2016, what do you have to lose? Trump asks African Americans as he argues that Democrats have failed them and they should give him their vote. You live in poverty, your schools are no good, you have no jobs. These less scripted remarks were in Dimondale, Michigan, which critics pointed out as 93% white. He also repeated incorrect statistics about black youth unemployment. September 15, 2016 continues birtherism. In an interview with The Washington Post, Trump refuses to answer whether he believes President Obama was born in the United States. September 16, 2016 ends birtherism. In a 10-word statement at his D.C. hotel, Trump tells a room of supporters and media that President Barack Obama was born in the United States, period. September 20, 2016 African American communities are in the worst shape ever, Trump says at a rally in Kenansville, North Carolina. PolitiFact gives that a pants on fire rating. September 21, 2016 stop and frisk. In a town hall with Fox News' Sean Hannity, Trump says that he supports stop and frisk, which allows police to question and temporarily detain anyone. Studies have shown minorities are disproportionately detained in stop and frisk. September 24, 2016 praises African American Museum but gets name wrong. While speaking in Roanoke, Virginia, Trump praises the recently opened National Museum of African American History and Culture in Washington as beautiful, but mistakenly calls it the Smithsonian National Museum of American History, African American Art. September 26, 2016, living in hell. At the first presidential debate, Trump states that African Americans and Hispanics are living in hell. You walk down the street and you get shot. October 6, 2016 still believes Central Park 5 are guilty. Trump gives CNN a statement about the 5 men falsely imprisoned for a 1989 rape, saying they admitted they were guilty. Experts point to the men's confessions as an example of police coercion. DNA evidence concluded another man committed the crime. October 9, 2016. Wrong on black poverty and narrow idea of where black people live. During the second presidential debate, Trump equates inner cities with African Americans and falsely states the urban black poverty rate, inflating it by nearly 20 percentage points. October 11, 2016. The Apprentice contestant claims racist comment. Randall Pinkett, the first black champion of the show, tells The Hollywood Reporter that Trump asked him if he would share his title with the runner-up, a white woman.
December
9, 2016. Thanks African Americans who did and didn't vote. At a "thank you" rally in Grand Rapids, Michigan, Trump says African American voters came through for him, arguing that those who stayed home did it in order to help him.
December
15, 2016. Trump again thanks black people who did not vote, this time at a rally in Hershey, Pennsylvania.
January
15, 2017. Changes African American Museum visit. ABC and others report the president would not visit the National Museum of African American History and Culture on Martin Luther King Jr. Day, January 16th, as previously discussed.
January
27, 2017. Doesn't mention Jews on Holocaust Remembrance Day. President Trump's written statement calls for remembering victims, survivors, heroes, but omits mention of Jews, who were the largest ethnic group affected. Politico later reports the State Department had drafted a version which did mention Jews, but the White House blocked its release.
February
1, 2017. Black History Month kickoff and Frederick Douglass. Trump begins Black History Month with a White House breakfast. He praises Martin Luther King Jr. and black Americans in general. He also seems to speak as if 19th century abolitionist Frederick Douglass were a living person.
February
16, 2017. Are they friends of yours? Trump asks American Urban Radio reporter April Ryan, who is black, in response to her question about whether he would meet with the Congressional Black Caucus. He says he would love to meet with the CBC and asks Ryan to set up a meeting. She later tweets that's not her job.
February
16, 2017. I am the least anti-Semitic person that you've ever seen. Trump says in the same news conference. He has a tense exchange with a young Jewish reporter asking about an increase in anti-Semitic acts.
February
25, 2017. Black History Month ends. Trump uses his last weekly address of the month to praise the African American community. He again pledges to improve education, jobs and safety. March 8, 2017. Trump language has been hurtful to African Americans. Representative Elijah Cummings, DMD, tells the president in a White House meeting that his words have been hurtful, offensive, and not helpful to the black community. March 22, 2017. Trump meets with the Congressional Black Caucus at the White House. Leaders of the group present him with a 130-page document outlining issues and ideas for the black community. April 17, 2017. White nationalist says he acted because of the president. A white nationalist leader facing charges he assaulted a black protester in 2016 defends himself in a court filing by claiming he was acting based on the words of then-candidate Trump. April 27, 2016. Aide. The president is trying harder than black activists. Trump's liaison to the black community tells the Associated Press the White House is waiting, willing to work with the black community, but it's not a one-way street. May 1, 2017. Why was there a civil war? Trump asks in an interview on Sirius XM, questioning why the Civil War couldn't have been avoided. May 5, 2017. Questions HBCU funding. In a signing statement for $1.1 trillion funding bill, the president points to $20 million in funding for historically black colleges and universities as potentially being unconstitutionally based on race. May 2016. Low number of minorities among Trump executives. The Associated Press reports the Trump Organization has little evidence of hiring minorities for executive positions. Trump responds, I am the least discriminatory person in the world, and says he has hired minorities for those roles. Neither he nor his staff provide the AP with evidence to confirm those hires. July 6, 2017, The West. In a sweeping foreign policy speech in Poland, Trump stresses the need to protect the West civilization against forces from the South and East that threaten Western values. June 9, 2017 Invitation to Black Leaders. The White House invites the entire Congressional Black Caucus for a meeting with the President. June 21, 2017 Invitation declined. The Congressional Black Caucus declines Trump's invitation. CBC Chairman Rep. Cedric Richmond, DILA, writes Trump a letter charging that his administration responded to neither their policy ideas nor 7 other letters or documents from the group. July 25, 2017 Flip on minority jobless rate. In a speech in Toledo, Ohio, Trump says that unemployment for African American and Hispanic youth is at its lowest since, just after the turn of the millennium. The Washington Post calls this a flip-flop from Trump's remarks in June 2016 calling the same rate a sign of American decline. August 12, 2017 condemns many sides for Charlottesville racial violence. After a white nationalist attending a rally drove a car into a crowd, killing 1 protester and injuring many more, Trump condemns this egregious display of hatred, bigotry and violence on many sides. August 15, 2017 Trump again blames both sides. During an impromptu news conference, Trump again condemns neo-Nazis but also insists both sides deserve blame for violence in Charlottesville and that counter-protesters had acted very, very violently. He incorrectly says protesters were quietly supporting the Robert E. Lee statue. August 22, 2017, I love all the people, and Confederate statues are our heritage. Speaking at a rally in Phoenix, Trump lashes out at coverage of his remarks about Charlottesville, Virginia, saying he loves all the people of our country, and repeating that racism is evil. He calls the white nationalist driver who killed a protester in Charlottesville a murderer. Minutes later, Trump defends Confederate statues, charging that those who want to remove them are trying to take our history and our heritage away.
September
22, 2017. Fire players protesting over minority treatment. Trump says NFL owners should fire son of a bitch players who kneel during the national anthem to protest police brutality against people of color.
September
24, 2017 athletes disrespecting our flag. As protests increase, Trump tweets that NFL players who refuse to stand during the national anthem are disrespectful.
September
30, 2017 Trump criticizes Puerto Ricans. In the aftermath of 2 hurricanes, Trump characterizes Puerto Ricans as wanting everything done for them, adding that their leaders are not able to get their workers to help. November 27, 2017 Trump uses name, Pocahontas, to belittle Senator. At an event honoring Navajo World War II veterans, the president mocks Massachusetts Sen. Elizabeth Warren for claiming Native American heritage, saying they call her Pocahontas. November 29, 2017 far-right nationalist retweet. Trump retweets 3 anti-Muslim tweets from British far-right leader Jada Franson, drawing widespread criticism. He did not mention white supremacists or nationalists specifically. August 13, 2017 White House tries to clarify Trump's words. A White House statement says, of course, the president included white supremacists in his condemnation.
December
23, 2017 Haitian immigrants and Nigerians. The New York Times reports that in an Oval Office meeting in June, Trump said Haitian immigrants all have AIDS, and Nigerians would never go back to their huts.
January
11, 2018. At a White House meeting on immigration, Trump reportedly wonders why the U.S. was admitting people from Haiti and Africa, referring to
shithole countries,
and suggesting more immigration from places like Norway.
January
14, 2018, I am the least racist person you ever interviewed. Trump tells reporters when asked about reports that he called Haiti and African nations
shithole countries.
He denies saying the words, disputing the account of Democratic senators in the room.
January
30, 2018 minority unemployment. In his State of the Union address, the president highlights historic low rates of African American and Hispanic unemployment. The LA Times found him to be correct about black unemployment and nearly correct on the Hispanic rate. Critics point out the president did not address the wide racial gap in employment rates overall. May 16, 2018, animals. Speaking at a White House roundtable on illegal immigration, Trump says, "We're taking people out of the country, these aren't people. These are animals." The following day he insists he was referring only to members of the MS-13 gang. You shouldn't be in the country. Speaking on Fox News, Trump insists any football player who doesn't stand for the national anthem shouldn't be playing and maybe shouldn't be in the country. June 4, 2018. The Philadelphia Eagles. The president disinvites the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles to a White House event after a number of players decided not to attend. He then criticizes protests over the rights of Black Americans, writing that any players staying in the locker room during the national anthem are as disrespectful to our country as those kneeling during the song. August 22, 2018. South Africa and white farmers. The president tweets that he has directed the Secretary of State to look into reports that the South African government is now seizing land from white farmers. There is no evidence of such widespread seizures, but the African National Congress is proposing allowing the uncompensated land takings. A spokesman for South Africa responds that the president is misinformed. October 22, 2018, unknown Middle Easterners as a threat. As a caravan of migrants approaches the southern border, Trump tweets that criminals and unknown Middle Easterners are mixed in. November 7, 2018, that's such a racist question. After PBS NewsHour's Yamiche Alcindor asks Trump about his use of the term nationalist and his response to people who say that rhetoric supports white nationalists, he says, that's a racist question. Trump goes on to say he has high poll numbers among African Americans and that he loves the country.
February
9, 2019 refers to Elizabeth Warren as Pocahontas. In a tweet, Trump mocks Sen. Elizabeth Warren, D-Mass, who has claimed Native American ancestry, as Pocahontas, and our first Native American presidential candidate, repeating an attack that Native Americans consider an offensive slur.
February
25, 2019 accuses Spike Lee of a racist hit on him. Following director Spike Lee's Oscar acceptance speech, Trump accuses Lee of launching a racist hit on him. Lee's speech did not mention Trump, but he spoke of African American history, including slavery, and called for people to mobilize for the 2020 election. April 6, 2019 charges Democrats with anti-Semitism and refers to Central American migrants as some of the roughest people. Speaking before the Republican Jewish coalition, Trump accuses Democrats of allowing anti-Semitism to take hold in their party as some of their members criticized Israel and referred to Jewish groups using financial terms. The president also referred to migrants from Honduras, Guatemala and El Salvador as some of the roughest people you've ever seen. April 12, 2019 video about Rep. Omar and
September
11. After Rep. Ilhan Omar, D-Min, who is Muslim, says, some people did something. To describe September 11th, Trump tweets out a controversial video showing her alongside 9/11 footage. Some criticized that video as Islamophobic and racist. May 9, 2019 calling his characterization of Mexicans as rapists mild. At a Florida rally, Trump defends his 2015 description of Mexican migrants as rapists and criminals. That speech was so mild compared to what's happening, he said. June 15, 2019 retweets sentiments from controversial UK nationalist. Trump retweets a British media personality, whose past tweets some people interpreted as advocating for ethnic cleansing. July 14 to 18, 2019 lashes out at 4 women of color in Congress. The president tweets that 4 freshman congresswomen who are non-white were, originally, from somewhere else, even though only one was born outside of the United States and all 4 are U.S. citizens. Trump later doubles down on his premise, insisting that the 4 lawmakers do not love the country and should consider leaving. His supporters chant, "Send her back," about one of the congresswomen at a rally later that week. 2019, rodent-infested mess. Trump writes more than a dozen tweets sharply criticizing House Oversight Chairman Elijah Cummings, DMD, and his majority black congressional district. In one of his tweets, the president calls the district a disgusting, rat and rodent-infested mess. Trump responds to criticism by pointing out that unemployment for African Americans is at a historic low and suggesting that Democrats are playing the race card. July 30, 2019, least racist person. Trump tells reporters he is the least racist person anywhere in the world, and that African Americans love the job I'm doing.
September
16, 2019 Hispanic advisor looks like a wasp. Speaking at a rally in New Mexico, Trump says an advisor happens to be Hispanic, but looks more like a wasp, white Anglo-Saxon Protestant than I do. He then says he has asked the advisor, Who do you like more, the country or the Hispanics? October 10, 2019 criticizes Somali refugees. At a rally in Minneapolis, Trump calls Rep. Ilhan Omar, a U.S. citizen born in Somalia, an America-hating socialist, and criticizes the large numbers of Somali refugees in the state, saying he wants to give the community more of a say on who arrives in the state, and pledging to make it harder for such refugees to enter. October 22, 2019 compares impeachment with a lynching. The president tweets that Democrats are impeaching him without due process and Republicans must remember what they are witnessing here, a lynching. March 16 to 24, 2020, Chinese virus. On Twitter, Trump writes the U.S. must protect its industries from the Chinese virus. He and others in the administration repeatedly use the phrase after this, in at least one case changing his prepared remarks to include it. March 18, 2020 defends Chinese virus. Trump tells reporters his use of the phrase, Chinese virus, is justified because the virus comes from China. It's not racist at all, he says. March 23, 2020 the virus is not Asian Americans' fault. As acts of hostility toward Asian Americans continue to rise, Trump tweets, it is very important that we totally protect our Asian American community, and that the virus spread is not their fault. March 24, 2020 says he will stop using the phrase, Chinese virus. Trump tells Fox News he does not regret it, but will no longer use the term. April 20, 2020 blocks new green cards. Trump posts a statement on Twitter saying he will temporarily suspend all immigration, due to the invisible enemy, a phrase he has used to indicate the coronavirus. The order is issued 2 days later, and applies to those outside the U.S. who are seeking green cards. May 8, 2020 Ahmaud Arbery death, very disturbing. In a television interview, Trump calls the shooting of black jogger Ahmaud Arbery very disturbing. He also says he believes something we didn't see on tape could have happened. June 8, 2020 policing problems are with bad apples. Speaking at a roundtable with law enforcement officers, Trump defends them as 99.9% great people. He points to bad apples and indicates he does not see a systemic problem. Trump does not mention race. June 10, 2020 will not replace Confederate base names. The president breaks with some military leaders and tweets that his administration will not consider renaming military installations honoring Confederate figures, writing that they are part of America's heritage and our history will not be tampered with. June 11, 2020 confront bigotry but don't mislabel people as racist. At a roundtable in Texas, Trump says, we have to work together to confront bigotry and prejudice wherever they appear, but we'll make no progress and heal no wounds by falsely labeling tens of millions of decent Americans as racists or bigots. June 12, 2020 reschedules Juneteenth rally. Trump tweets that he is delaying a rally planned for Tulsa, Oklahoma, by 1 day, upon the advice of African American friends and supporters, who say it would not respect the Juneteenth holiday, which observes the day that the news of slavery's end had reached the entire country. Tulsa is the site of one of the nation's bloodiest race riots, in which up to 300 black people were killed by white residents. June 18, 2020 nobody ever heard of Juneteenth before. Trump tells the Wall Street Journal, in an interview published this day, that he personally made Juneteenth famous and nobody had ever heard of it before. PolitiFact rated this a pants on fire, untrue statement. He also expresses surprise when the reporter tells him his White House has issued statements about Juneteenth in each year of his presidency. June 20, 2020 Tulsa rally statements on race. At a campaign rally in Tulsa, Oklahoma, Trump makes several statements related to race and nationality. Speaking about the need for police, Trump depicts a hypothetical break-in and attack on a woman whose husband is away and calls the fictional criminal a tough hombre, Spanish for man. Trump rejects the National Football League's new support for athletes who kneel in protest of treatment of black Americans, saying, we will never kneel to our great American anthem, our flag. He calls the coronavirus, the Kung flu, and the Chinese virus. He says Rep. Ilhan Omar, an American citizen and Somalian refugee, wants to make the U.S. like the country where she was born, and wants to tell us how to run our country. He claims, I've done more for the black community in 4 years than likely presidential opponent Joe Biden has done in 47 years, and that racial justice begins with Joe Biden's retirement from public life. June 22, 2020 videos of black people committing acts of violence. As protests over police violence against Black Americans continue, the president retweets 2 videos depicting Black men attacking white people, asking why there was no protest over one incident, and calling the other so terrible. June 25, 2020 accuses Black activist of treason. On Twitter, Trump accuses an activist previously affiliated with Black Lives Matter of treason for saying protesters will burn down this system and replace it if their demands aren't met. June 25, 2020 compares living in some cities to living in hell, says it's not racist and Black people are thankful. The president tells Fox News that people in 4 majority non-white cities, Detroit, Oakland, Chicago and Baltimore, are living in hell. He defends his criticism as objective, not racist, and says Black people are grateful for his concern. June 28, 2020 retweets video that includes Trump supporter yelling, "White Power." Lashing out at the radical left, Trump retweets a 2-minute video of a verbal clash in a Florida retirement community. A protester asks a Trump supporter, "Where's your Ku Klux Klan hood?" The Trump supporter responds by yelling, "White Power." The retweet was later deleted and the White House said the president did not hear the phrase when he watched the video, but it did not comment on the use of the phrase otherwise. June 30, 2020 veto threat over Confederate names, Pocahontas. On Twitter, Trump pledges to veto a key defense bill if it includes a provision replacing the names of military bases honoring Confederate soldiers. He jabs at the provision's author, Sen. Elizabeth Warren, D-Mass, again calling her, Pocahontas, to mock her past claims of Native American ancestry. July 6, 2020 pushes back at NASCAR Confederate flag ban, Bubba Wallace. On Twitter, Trump asks if Black NASCAR driver Bubba Wallace has apologized for what the president claims was a hoax. This follows an incident in which a noose was found in Wallace's garage, initially thought to be a hate crime against Wallace but ultimately determined to have been there since last year. Trump said the incident and NASCAR's ban on the Confederate flag were bad for ratings.
It couldn't be more obvious. Of the 2 major candidates in this race, only Kamala Harris truly understands the unseen labor and unwavering commitment that has always made America great. Now, unfortunately, we know what comes next. We know folks are going to do everything they can to distort her truth. My husband and I sadly know a little something about this. For years, Donald Trump did everything in his power to try to make people fear us. See, his limited, narrow view of the world made him feel threatened by the existence of 2 hard-working, highly educated, successful people who happen to be Black. I want to know, who's going to tell him that the job he's currently seeking might just be one of those Black jobs?